Our last sermon in our series, So Near Yet So Far, we looked at Judas's betrayal of Jesus. Judas, who was one of the 12 disciples who was so close to Jesus, how could he end up so far? And unlike Judas, how do we avoid an eternal fallout? Judas had a moment when he believed in Jesus and dropped everything to follow him. But why is it at the end of his story he ends up so far outside the gospel, so far away from Jesus? And how did he get there? Proverbs 16:18 says, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Could it be that Judas's excuse to betray Jesus was that the ends justify the means? Judas, in his pride, thought that he would take matters into his own hands. Instead of trusting in Jesus and in God's plan, he decides to betray Jesus, thinking that that will fulfill God's plan faster. As Judas's betrayal leads to the crucifixion of Jesus, Judas realizes he messed up, and after his fall, there is despair. Judas lets himself be consumed by his despair so much so that he cuts himself off from being able to see and decides for himself that he is beyond saving, that he is beyond forgiveness. So how do we avoid an eternal fallout that Judas experienced? We must remember and realize that even after a fall, as great as it may seem, there is always hope. Both Peter and Judas were his disciples, yet they end up in very different fates. Both in their failure realize their growing awareness of their flesh and their sinfulness. But instead of cutting himself off in despair like Judas did, Peter was able to turn and look to Jesus and see that in Jesus, there is always hope and forgiveness and love. And that is how we avoid an eternal fallout.